What's up, guys? Here are my predictions for UFC Fight Night Norfolk this weekend. It's actually a pretty good card. So we're going to start with John Dodson versus Marlon Moraes. This is one of my most anticipated fights of the card because this is a really technical and explosive matchup. You got John Dodson, who is one of the fastest guys in the whole division, probably the fastest. Small guy for bantamweight in terms of height and length and reach and everything, but he does have power for the division. He does have knockout power. His takedown defense is insanely good, and he really just looks to box with his opponent. He doesn't throw too many kicks. I mean, he will throw some leg kicks, but they're not one of his focuses in the fight usually. He's really good with closing distance with the right hand and coming down the middle or through the other side with the left hook. And he closes that distance so quick. And he also has a really good chin as well. You saw it in the John Lineker fight. He took some big shots from Lineker, who's one of the biggest power punchers in the division. And his footwork is pretty good. He's not fluid, but everything's so quick. And he's fighting Marlon Moraes, who is more of a well-rounded fighter on the feet or mixing up strikings and grappling. He's good with kicks. He's also a pretty powerful striker, and he's an aggressive fighter as well, but looks to counter while using that aggressiveness. He's going to be a bit bigger than John Dodson, so he's going to have that reach advantage, and he does have the threat of the takedown. Although I don't think it's going to work too much against John Dodson, and Marlon Moraes is really good with mixing up leg kicks with his punches. So my prediction for the fight, I'm actually going to go with John Dodson. I'm going to go by a decision or a late TKO. I see John Dodson be the one moving around a lot. I see Marlon Moraes trying to look for that big shot, pressuring the smaller Dodson. Throw that jab a lot, throw a lot of leg kicks. But when he throws those leg kicks, I see John Dodson closing the distance and landing the left hand, making Moraes a little bit wary about throwing those leg kicks. And I do see John Dodson's speed being a huge advantage here. I think he's going to catch Moraes off guard. I do see Moraes trying to keep that long distance just in case. Eventually, the distance is going to keep getting closer and closer, and I see Dodson catching him with the left hand. Then we go to Joe Lauzon versus Clay Guida. This is an interesting fight, and it's also interesting that these two never fought before. They're both veterans. They have some of the most fights in lightweight history, but they never fought each other. It's just crazy, so I'm happy for this fight. Joe Lauzon is a pretty well-rounded fighter, extremely aggressive at times, but although lately he's been toning it down a little bit. He's been trying to be a bit more methodical, but it just seems like it's not effective for his style. When he's aggressive is when you see him actually perform a lot better. He throws everything on the feet, those leg kicks, high kicks, go with that left hook of his, go with the jab and the right cross. Everything is kind of textbook, he does everything pretty well. He's a tough fighter as well, and he's pretty fast for the division. And he has some serious power, like you saw in his fight with Diego Sanchez, being the first guy to knock out Sanchez. But when he gets aggressive, he gets a little bit too aggressive at times, and he leaves himself exposed. He sometimes starts to get a little bit off balance at times. He lunges in there too much. He leaves his chin exposed, and his punches are really long when he starts being really aggressive. And he kind of thrusts himself at his opponent. His ground game is really solid as well, especially with his submissions and his controlling of the opponent off his back. He's good on top as well if it gets there. But if this fight goes to the ground, I do see Guida on top and Lauzon on the bottom, because Guida is a very good wrestler and very aggressive with it. And Lauzon, I think, will welcome it either way. His ground game is very similar to his striking. Really aggressive, always throwing out output, and always looking for the finish. And then you got Clay Guida, who is also an aggressive fighter, but it's constant. Everything he does is just a lot, a lot of movement, a lot of punches, a lot of takedown attempts. Sometimes his movement is a bit funky and it gets his opponent's timing off, but then at times when he's throwing punches while he's using that footwork, he gets a little bit too far away for his punches. He doesn't find that distance of his on his opponent, and he was able to get caught a couple times in the past, like you saw with Gray Maynard and other fights like that. He has decent power as well, although he's more of a grinder. He looks to set up his punches and go for the takedown. In this fight, it's going to be a little bit dangerous against Lauzon because I think Lauzon's going to have the striking advantage. And on the ground, Lauzon's going to have the submission threat. But Guida's cardio is insane. He's always able to keep moving, always able to go for those takedowns and get top control and control his opponents, land ground and pound on top, and he doesn't let his opponent stand up. That's the biggest thing. When he takes you down, you're most likely going to stay down. So in this fight, I'm going to go with Joe Lauzon. I'm going to go by a second or third round finish, TKO or submission. I can see either or happening. On the feet, I think Lauzon's going to have the more power. I think he's going to be the more technical striker. I don't think he's going to be fooled by the footwork and the movements of Guida. I think he's going to find him with the left hook. I think he's going to catch him with a jab. And the leg kicks especially might be a big weapon for Lauzon, because even if he gets taken down, he's going to have that submission threat. So anywhere that Guida takes this fight, he's going to be in trouble, or he's going to have a lot of danger ahead of him. Then we go to Junior Albini versus Andrei Arlovski. This is an interesting fight especially because Junior Albini came out of nowhere, right? And his last one was really impressive. His striking really showed, and he's pretty good with his combinations, especially for a heavyweight. Both of these guys are strikers. Albini being younger in MMA, he has a short reach, which could be a problem against Arlovski, but his composure in there is really impressive. Able to walk his opponents down, and his defense is pretty solid, although he does get caught by straight shots sometimes, but he does keep his guard up most of the time when he sees strikes coming. His kicks are powerful. He has a lot of dexterity in those kicks, able to throw high kicks really well. And he commits with all kind of Muay Thai style of attacks. Those elbows in close to the left hook. His uppercuts are really precise. And that's the big thing about him. His precision is on point. And he's fighting Andrei Arlovski, who's also a striker, who has really quick hands. He's going to have a reach advantage in this fight. He has big power, and it really comes from the speed of his punches. It's hard to see them coming at times. He is good with those straight shots. Although he has been getting a little bit wild in his fights at times, his straight punches could be the big thing in this fight, especially if Albini takes a southpaw stance. Although he doesn't have the variety that Albini has on the feet. Albini can throw everything on the feet with pretty good form. Arlovski's more of a boxer, and he does throw leg kicks at times. But the sneaky thing from Arlovski is those back fists that you saw in the Travis Brown fight that dropped him. He throws his punches and then throws them right back really quickly for the back fist. So that's something Albini is going to have to be cautious about, of those unorthodox back fists coming out of nowhere. But the thing about Arlovski is, he's up there in age. His ability to take shots has greatly been affected. His chin is really a big factor in this fight. A couple shots from Albini could be enough to put down Arlovski, and Albini is a pretty tough fighter. He has a pretty good chin, and it might be his time now. And even on the ground, I don't think it's going to get to the ground. Albini does have the better ground game than Arlovski does, but I don't see it going down there. Arlovski does have pretty good takedown defense, but that striking defense of Arlovski is a hindrance in his performances, because Arlovski keeps his hands down and his chin up, more his chin up than anything. He'll like to put his hands up, but then he puts his chin up even higher, and he gets caught many times for that. So in this fight, I'm going to go with Junior Albini. I'm going to go by a first round knockout, possibly second round. I see him throwing constant volume and catching Arlovski pretty early, and then I see Arlovski having a lot of trouble throughout the round, eventually getting TKO'd. Then we go to the co-main event, Matt Brown versus Diego Sanchez. Now this is a very interesting fight. One, this is Matt Brown's last fight, I believe. I think he's retiring right after this, and Diego Sanchez is coming up to welterweight again. I mean, he was a welterweight before, a long time ago. So it's interesting to see, because he just fought at featherweight. Went back up to lightweight to fight Eli Quinta, got knocked out in that fight. Now he's coming up to welterweight, which I think it's a better choice for his career right now, because he is up there in age. And not only that, the damage he has taken in MMA is, he's aging really fast in MMA for that. And this should be a fun fight. Both these guys are really aggressive, and they really put it all out there. Matt Brown is more of a striker, although he has really good trips in the clinch, and his clinch work is some of the best in the welterweight division. He's ferocious with his punches. He throws pretty good kicks as well, but it's really the hands on the feet, those long punches that he throws out there, the straight punches, the uppercuts. He throws everything pretty well, although he does leave himself exposed at times when he's committing. But when he gets in close after he throws the punches, you got to watch out from those elbows, because he'll throw them right away. His takedown defense is also pretty good as well. I could actually see this getting to the ground. Diego might be the one that might go for the takedowns. In the past, at welterweight, he was effective with them. He was pretty good at timing them. So we might see that back again. We might see him actually go for takedowns and not trying to just brawl with the bigger and more powerful Matt Brown, because Brown does have some serious power, and he's fought some of the greatest fighters that welterweight has ever produced. And he's taken all their shots. He fought guys like Stephen Thompson, Robbie Lawler, and all these other guys. Went to war with some of them and everything like that. And that's something to take note, but it's also with Diego. I mean, they're both up there in age. They both fought so many times. They both went to war many, many times. It's starting to show some wear and tear now. So I'm kind of glad this is Matt Brown's last fight. And this being his last fight, he might actually put it all out on the line again. And if it gets to the ground, his ground game is actually pretty solid, especially when he's off his back. He has a threat of submissions, throws elbows at his opponent. And it's fighting Diego Sanchez, who is more of a brawler on the feet. His punches have been getting a lot more labored. Almost no snap into them anymore. It's just all forced and all just labored. It's like he's trying to throw them out there. He throws hooks a lot, especially the right hook. That's pretty much his main weapon. And his kicks are pretty solid as well. He has good leg kicks and he has good body kicks. I wish he'd go to that a little bit more. But where he really shines, or where he's the most dangerous at, is on the ground. His submission game and his transitioning and his ability to roll with his opponents and get in dominant positions is very impressive. He's been shying away from that a little bit, it seems like. He likes to just brawl with his opponents now. But back in the day, Diego was a huge threat on the ground. He'll throw ground and pound on top of his opponents, and his transitioning and his submissions were so slick. And I think that's where he's going to go to now. I don't think he's going to brawl with Matt Brown. So in this fight, I'm actually going to go with Matt Brown. I'm going to go with Brown. I'm going to go by a second round TKO. I don't see Diego taking down Matt Brown easily. I see Brown potentially being saved by the bell when he gets taken down. I think it's going to be a hard fought battle for that takedown, and I think Diego will finally get it late in the round. But I see Brown be able to control him, and then on the feet, I see Diego's wide punches getting countered or getting broken through with those straight shots from Brown to eventual TKO. Then we go to the main event, Dustin Poirier versus Anthony Pettis. This is probably the fight that most people are looking forward to. I'm kind of bummed out because I wanted to see Poirier versus Eddie Alvarez again because I think there's unfinished business there. That was a really good fight, really close fight. But this is a good fight as well, especially for Pettis, fighting a top 10 opponent. He's fighting Dustin Poirier, who is a very well-rounded fighter, probably more well-rounded than Anthony Pettis. He's more textbook with everything. He has power in his hands, coming from featherweight. Lightweight is his division. I don't know why he was fighting at featherweight before. Maybe he wanted the size advantage, because he was bigger than most of them. But he looks so much refreshed here. He looks full of energy, and he has big power in this division. And he carried that speed as well. He has crisp boxing, very technical boxing. His defense is really good as well. Always has his hands up, even when he's throwing punches and everything like that. His kicks are decent as well, although they're not super elusive or they don't have crazy dexterity. But he's really good with leg kicks and body kicks. And on the ground, he is also extremely dangerous, especially with that Darce choke of his. Really good at snatching submissions, and he's getting really good at controlling his opponents on the ground. He's looking a bit more like a wrestler on the ground, which is a good thing. He's able to threaten Pettis with that because Pettis in the past, Pettis' biggest weakness that almost everybody knows about is that wrestling defense. So Poirier, working on that lately, fighting wrestlers like Eddie Alvarez and preparing for them, is going to help him in this fight. But now more offensively rather than defensively. And Poirier is really good with that left hook of his and the right cross. Now, there has been criticism on his ability to take a punch. That could be a problem against Pettis because Pettis hits really hard. And not only that, he is one of the fastest guys in the division, but he has good defense in front of that. So then we go to Anthony Pettis, who is a Taekwondo fighter. One of the most traditional Taekwondo fighters in the UFC. His kicks are some of the best in the UFC. Extremely flexible. He throws wild stuff out there too, like cartwheel kicks, showtime kicks, jumping off the cage, throwing knees, and everything like that. His boxing has been another weakness of his, especially offensively. His punches lately have seemed to be a little bit more labored. There's not too much snap into them, except that left hook of his. I don't know what it is, but that left hook of his seems a lot different than all of his other punches. Like you saw in the Gilbert Melendez fight. I mean, everything he throws, it's almost like he's trying to make his form perfect. But then you see his left hook, and it's extremely explosive, very powerful. It's different than his other punches for some reason. Maybe he has more confidence in it. Maybe he worked on that a little bit more. I don't know what it is. But what he's really good at is setting up kicks. He doesn't throw too many leg kicks. He throws them more to the body and to the head. And he's good at setting them up with his punches as well. Those short range punches to get his opponent to back up just enough from the short range punches. And then they're in line for the kicks. And he fights almost equally in southpaw and orthodox. But what he likes to do is he likes to get in the opposite stance of his opponent. So the body kick is more open for both of them, right? But Pettis is going to have the advantage in the kicks over almost everybody. There's a few others that can match him or surpass him, like Barboza, let's say. But in this fight, what he would like to do against a guy like Poirier is he likes to get in the opposite stance. Now his power body kicks and power head kicks are much more open, right? And his wrestling defense is another weakness of his that's been present for a long, long time. I know he's been working on it a little bit more, and he's actually getting better with his takedown defense. But man, usually when people take advantage of him is in that department. They throw punches at him, and then they drive in against the cage with the takedown and take him down, and then they just control him after that. But the thing about Pettis is he has a super dangerous ground game. His triangles, his arm bars, everything he has down there is always dangerous. He's good at sweeping his opponents as well, and his submissions are insane. But where he has a problem is against that cage mostly, if he's on his back. And that's where Poirier might take the fight because Pettis also likes to stay close to the cage. So in this fight, it's a really tough fight to call. It's almost even for me. If I have to make a prediction, I'm going to go with Anthony Pettis. I'm going to go with Pettis, and I'm actually going to go by a second or third round knockout. The reason for this is, even if Dustin is the more well-rounded fighter and the more technical and textbook fighter, he doesn't make as much quote-unquote mistakes as Pettis does. I see like one shot from Pettis being enough to change the fight. One big shot, that is. For some reason, I see that left hook landing on Dustin Poirier and changing the fight for Pettis. Maybe not knocking him out with the left hook, but I see it stunning Dustin Poirier. And those head kicks and the body kicks are going to be really devastating. And Pettis has the much more elusive footwork. He's going to be able to get the distance for his kicks faster than Poirier's going to be able to cover them. So that's a threat as well. And off his back, Pettis is no picnic on the ground. His submissions are going to be a huge threat to Poirier. I could see that happening too. I could see him actually getting taken down in the center of the cage, and I could see him catching him in a triangle or an armbar. But I'm going to go second round, third round knockout. So those are my predictions, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe. For my next video, I'm going to come out with a breakdown video on one of these fights. So be on the lookout for that. And I'm going to come out with my podcast next week on Tuesday. I'm going to have it on YouTube first. I'm just going to be talking about anything that comes to mind. Make sure you guys leave comments though. I want to actually answer some questions from you guys. You can leave them here on YouTube, or you can send them to me on Twitter. Those are the easiest things for me to actually get to them and read them. Twitter's going to be more short questions. I think they lengthen what you can tweet now, so that's good. Or you can send them on YouTube if you have a little bit longer of a question. Now, if they're like paragraphs long, some essay, I don't think I'm going to get to that. It's going to take way too long. I want to get through many of your guys' questions as possible. And I'm not just going to go through the top. I'm going to go through the bottom of them. I'm just going to skim around through it. But the questions that get the most likes, let's say, on YouTube or on Twitter, I'm going to read those first. But that's not all it's going to be limited to. So the priority of the questions that I'm going to read are probably mostly going to come from Twitter. But I will, of course, go right to YouTube if you just want to do that. If you don't have a Twitter or anything like that. I would like the comments to be under my prediction video, because my breakdown video usually gets a lot of different kind of comments, and I don't want it to get mushed in with a bunch of different things I have to keep looking around for them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pin a comment on my YouTube videos, and they're going to be labeled questions or something like that, and that's where you guys are going to put the questions as a reply to that comment. Just to make everything simple for me to read them. So everything in that thread, everything as a reply to my pinned comment are going to be the questions I'm going to look forward to. Like I said, the ones with the most likes are going to be the ones that are going to get answered first, of course, but they're not going to be exclusive to that. And for the Twitter questions, just tag me in them. Ask me a question with that. So yeah, and the questions could be pretty much about anything. Yeah, so ask me any questions you guys want. Like I said before, I'm gonna start them off, talk about the various things happening in MMA recently that come to mind. Anything that comes to mind, I'm just gonna talk about that right away. Just go off the top, and then I'll go right to your guys' questions right after that. Carry it for an hour, hour and a half, or something like that. If I get carried away, sometimes it goes a little bit longer. I'll try to stop myself. I'm going to see how that goes, see how you guys like that. If you guys want it shorter, if you guys want it longer. I'm really looking forward to the feedback. Maybe in the future I might have some guests with me and everything like that, just to bounce my ideas off someone. That's always fun as well. So be on the lookout for that as well. And make sure you guys watch these fights. Make sure you guys watch the UFC card this weekend. It's going to be an amazing card. A lot of veterans in it, so that's good, because recently we've been having a lot of up-and-coming talent. And now we have the veterans on this card. And again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.